You might be wondering a little bit more about who Jeff and I are, so we thought we'd do a little Q&A. First obvious question is, where is Jeff? So Jeff is a behind the scenes camera kind of guy. Just as he is not the writer of this book, he is not an author, but he is a content contributor. And so same thing with the videos. He is behind the scenes. He's behind the camera. He is a tech guru, and he is more the behind the scenes kind of person. And so he did not want to be on camera. I begged him. I begged him to let me put his name on the front of the book, as an author. And he said that's not his place. That's not his thing. And so that's where he is. He's behind the camera, but he is here with us. He has helped me form all these questions and answers. And so that's where he is. A little bit about us. We met the first time when we were 16 and 17. We dated for a while, and then we, briefly, and then we went our separate ways. And then we met up many years later. I hate to tell you, almost 30 years later, we met again, found ourselves both divorced and on social media, and so we reconnected. We now live in Dadeville, Alabama. We've been married for 10 years. We are a blended family. We have 4 kids, 2 grandkids, 3 dogs, 2 goats, and a whole bunch of fun. We attend the Church of Highlands in Alabama, and we attend the Auburn campus. I have been at Church of the Highlands for 12 years, and Jeff has been attending there for 14 years. I also attend Highlands College Leadership Institute, getting my certificate in Biblical and Theological Studies. Both Jeff and I became Christians in our childhood, and we grew up in church. I even spent our childhood in church, and then I even went to a Christian school. Our previous marriages. Jeff was married almost 20 years before, and I was married almost 16 years before. I would categorize myself as one of those people that found themselves to be church hurt. And so during my married life, I spent many years visiting around and in and out of church, and found a hard time to really commit to one specific church. And so I kept what I would have told you then, I have faith, and my faith is strong, but I don't like attending church. And so I definitely was a church hurt person. And then I became divorced, and I went and found the biggest church I could. I go a little bit of detail of this in the book, but the biggest church I could, and I went and used it as a hiding place. I hid in church, and I decided at that time to go all in with God. And Jeff has always been consistent in his church life, yet when he found himself going through a divorce, he found it very difficult to let anyone in on what he was going through. So he decided at that time to start visiting around. And so he ended up coming to the same church that I was at, and sort of hiding in it, and being able to be in church and be around the body of Christ, and yet not really have to talk or have to share the shame and the trauma of what he was going through. And so divorce and church was definitely not something that it did drive us away from. I would say it drove us away from the body of Christ, because we felt so alienated. And if you're a Christian, you don't want to ever get a divorce. And all of a sudden you find yourself divorced, and you don't want to walk in and tell, other Christians, I'm getting a divorce. You just don't. You feel alienated from everyone. And so the large church allowed us both separately to go in and to just breathe. And I talk about it more in that chapter, Run to the Mega Church, because that is exactly what we both did. Okay, how did the book come about? So the book came about, I'm a processor and I like to process things. I like to journal. I like to talk about things. I like to go to counseling. I like to work on things. And so that's just how I am. And so Jeff and I we loved walking. We'd go on lots of walks before we got married. And then once we got married, we'd go on walks all the time. And so through those walks, we would talk. And, we both had this shared experience of being a Christian and going through a divorce. And so we would talk about what we wish we had and how difficult that time was, or what we did have and how that helped us. And so we would compare and contrast, and we would just talk about this need that we really felt that there was this lacking, this deficit, that there wasn't there resources. And the one place that you need to run to when you're hurting is your church, is God. And the one place you don't want to run to when you're hurting and you're divorced is God and the church. And so it was like we need, there should be something out there. So that's when we realized this all started from a place of our own deficit, what we didn't have, and then this understanding of, gosh, there should be something. And then we spent all this time. It was just organic. We never intended to write a book. We never intended to tell anybody. It was just us processing together. And so we kept doing that, and we kept saying, oh, I wish I had this, or oh, I remember when this really worked good, or that song that just spoke to it. And so we kind of I journaled, and so I would journal our talks. And so I kept journaling, and I kept talking about it, and we kept cultivating it. And so, and I go into a little bit details of this in the book. So, but eventually, I felt compelled. I mean, I had to write the book. I tried another way. I tried to do a video series about it, and that just didn't fulfill this inner need within me. It said, this is not getting to the people that need it. I need, write the book. And so that is how the book came about. How long did it take? It took me 6 years to write this book, because as I said, I would write it. I would, I tried to do a video series on it. I would, put it away. I opened up a yarn shop. I did everything else but write this book. And so when I finally put down my head and just said, okay, I'm going to write this book, it took me a year really to compile everything and send it out to test readers and all of that. We are not pastors, we're not teachers, we're not theologians, we are not counselors, we did not reinvent the wheel, we did not come up with some great new tips and techniques that you've never heard of before. We're not innovators, we're not influencers, we just are two people who were Christians, who went through a divorce, who experienced and felt the same emotions and the same experiences in it. We did not do everything right in our previous marriages or divorces. We did not do everything wrong. We are just, we didn't do everything right or wrong in anything. And so this is not about our exes. This is not, and I think that's why we both saw we needed to do a video with a Q&A, because we didn't really share a lot of our story, because it's about you. We wanted this resource to be for the person that's going through it, and not for us to re-traumatize them with our stories, but also for them not to compare, like not to say, well, I didn't have that, or I didn't have this. That this book is for that person that's going through it, and it's personal. And so we wanted to depersonalize our story as much as possible, and then but make something so you get to know us and know our why we wrote and who we are to have written it. so the book title, it kind of grabs you. It says, I got a divorce. And it's hard to take pictures with. It's hard to walk in and go, hey, I wrote a book. Would you mind putting this on your shelf? Because it's so in your face. And that is because Jeff really wanted this title. I wanted You Are Not Alone, something that's a little bit more generic. But what he wanted was, he remembered being a man and walking in the bookstore and looking for something. And he wanted just something that said, I'm a man, I'm a Christian, I got a divorce and I need some, and here's some help for me. And so he thought this was direct, and it was for a man or for a woman. That's kind of how the book is laid out. It is very direct and is very obvious. It's very simple. And so that's who it's for. It's for a person that's hurting, a Christian that finds themselves divorced and they're hurting. That's who the book is for. And we feel that it is for men and for women. This book is also for the person going through a divorce, but it's also for the person who knows someone going through a divorce or wants to support someone going through the divorce. And so we see this as a resource for churches to have on hand when someone comes in and asks for prayer or lets the church know, hey, I'm going through a divorce. This is something immediately that they can be given, and they can go home by themselves in their privacy of their home and start working on these things. And along with that, yes, find out about a small group, find out about a program that they can go through, which we hope and we know, we believe that churches are doing that now. And so, but this is this goes home with you. This is personal. This is for the person that really needs something that they can help them at 2 a.m. When you've just come home, the kids are going on, the divorce care group or the group that you're going to is not for two more nights. And this right here is now. It's right here on your coffee table. Pick it up, read it, and start processing and dealing with it. And so that's how we see the church utilizing this. That's how we see the person utilizing it and how we see the church utilizing it. When they're dealing with someone who's come in and said, I'm going through a divorce, they already know that they can give them a resource, but now they can have a little bit better understanding of that person, of what they need and what they're going through. So we saw 3 stages of our own divorces, and there was the first part, which was the trauma. It's traumatic. You're in it, and you're so much in it that you don't know what you need. And so that we call that going to the ER. That's the first part. You just need to survive. We need to make sure your life is stabilized. And so that's why the first part is basic. It's so basic. But sometimes that's what you need. When you're going through something like that, when you are traumatized, you need the ER, and you need someone to say, here, drink this, here, sit down, breathe in and out, here's what I did, here, do this. And so that's what the first part is all about, surviving. We feel like we have laid out some really good tips that get you through that first survival for however long that lasts. For some people, that's a long time. And so that's what the first stage is. And so then once we got you survived, your life is preserved and you are no longer bleeding out, we move you into rehab. And so rehab is where you start recovering your heart, and you start to really, it is the hard work, I would say, because it's more proactive, and it's more, when you are in ER, you are reactive to a situation. You are reacting to the trauma. And so in rehab, you get to start being a little bit more proactive and saying, okay, I need to rehab. I need to do the work now. I need to figure out some things. And so we lay out the things that you need to do that we really feel worked for us and allowed us to learn how to recover our own hearts. And then we move into thriving. And thriving can happen. It is possible. Things do get better, my friend. Things do. And you are capable and you will survive this, and you're not alone. And I'm telling you all the things that I wanted to make sure you know in the book. But you can. There are new beginnings available to you, and we walk you through that. It's just an honest guide of how to survive divorce, recover your heart again, and begin thriving and seeing that there is discovering all the new beginnings for you. And so I hope this little Q&A answered some of your questions. If you have any other questions, please contact us through the website, email us, and we'll be glad to try to answer those.